Okay, Sunday, August 31st, 2025. I'm just getting back from the gym. So I'm going to answer some viewer question. Again, back to Norway. People are most interested in my experience in Norway of all the places I've been. And this is about getting your driver's license in Norway as an American. That's what the question is about. Now, generally speaking, in Norway, it's one of the hardest countries to get a driver's license in. And depending on the country you come from, you either I think you can just switch if you're from Sweden or Denmark or one of the EU countries. And if you're like from a third world country, like India or Morocco or, Pakistan or Vietnam, you got to do the whole course all over again, even if you were the, best driver in your country, So for me, in the first year, if you come to Norway as an American, and within the first year you just have to take the practical exam. You don't have to do the written course, with the books and everything, because that's a whole other rabbit hole. That's a lot of studying. It's not easy like in America. Just to give you a background, why you want to, as an American, when you come over, to get this done as quick as possible. I mean, it's a very thick textbook. It's about 2 inches thick, and they cover coefficients of friction and a lot of engineering concepts, a lot of first aid, stuff. Maybe you would get this in a driver's ed course in American high school, maybe, but not at the level they teach at Norway. Now in Norway, you got to be 18 at least to get your driver's license. And I did both driving and motorcycle. And motorcycle is also pretty hard. It's, I think, also the hardest country in the world to get a motorcycle license in. But I'll first talk about the car, because I did the car and motorcycle back to back, within the first year, so I had to do the practical test for both. But there's a lot of crossover with these tips about car and motorcycle. But I'll first start with the car specifics and then the motorcycle specifics. So when I got there, you have to go to this office, Statens Vegvesen, and let them know you're going to do a conversion, and you turn in your U.S. driver's license. I think I did that first before I got, I can't remember. Actually, maybe I did that after I passed the exams. Or, no, you have to go there, and that's right. You get the documents, and they tell you, you turn in your U.S. driver's license, and they tell you what, what license you can get. What course you have to take, so you file this thing, they check your dates, you get the decision by email that you just need to pass the practical test. And this sounds really easy on paper. So, like in America, you would just go rent a car if you didn't have a car, borrow a friend's car, and go to the DMV and just drive for, better part of 15 minutes and get your license. In Norway, it doesn't work that way. You can only take a driving test with a school car, one with the teacher's brake. On the passenger side, there's a set of brakes for the teacher. So it has to be a car from a driving school. And a driving school is not just going to rent you their car. You got to take some lessons from them, And so now here you can see it's a racket, So I signed up, I think, for 5 or 10 hours of lessons, Now, rightfully so, there are some differences between Norway and America on the roads. Norway, they drive really slow and super safe, but the signs are a little different. There's the European signage. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's a lot of differences between who has right of way. And then, of course, there's the roundabouts. Now, I had driven, I lived in Estonia long back, Sweden long back. And in the first year, when you're living in these countries, you can use your American driver's license to rent cars and check stuff out. So I knew a little bit about roundabouts, but I forgot. It had been a long time. So I had to, I asked the driving school, let's really focus on the roundabouts. And then let's focus on the right of way, these priority roads, the yellow sign, and when you're driving without a yellow sign. Freeway driving in Norway is like American freeway driving in super slow motion. That's easy. That's like the safest place to drive in Norway because everybody's driving really nice. The traffic flows really well. People are keeping their distance. I wouldn't worry about that. What gets people on the Norwegian driving tests is parking. So you have to be, your parking has to be like really precise, especially the parallel parking, you know, parking up a hill, down a hill. I remember down and out, up and in, or something like that. Or no, up and out. You pull the wheel, because if the car's brake slips, then the car rolls into the curve. That's right, so up and out and down and in. So that way the car is always rolling in the curve. You always want the wheels so that if gravity pulls the car, it pulls it to the curve. So you got to know this. And then you got to really know your parallel parking. And then, so I had to go and, so I did these lessons, you know, and I did it for automatic. You know, I'm not good in the stick shift driving. It's weird. I drive a motorcycle pretty good. But with the car, with the gear shifting, I don't know. It's too much going on. You know, you got to watch the road, and then you got to worry about the gear. So I just did the automatic. You know, I took 1 or 2 lessons on a stick shift car, but the instructor actually told me it won't go well. You know, because I was used to. I learned stick shift in America, and you don't have to be as precise. Like in Norway, you got to be in the right gear, you know, before your turn and everything, and then get back out, you know, drop the gear and all this, and it's got to all be like done, you know, in a right sequence. Where in America, you kind of just slime through it, you know. So I opted for the automatic. That way, I just had to focus my attention on the street in front of me and the signs. And when I went on the exam day, okay, so you go in the school car with your driving teacher, the guy who gave you the lessons. And then the strange but true, he tells you to wait in the car, or wait somewhere. I had to wait in the car. And he went and talked to the guy who was giving me my exam. He said, I'll be right back. So I think they go in there and they tell, like, okay, yeah, this guy's okay. He's been driving good. You know, if he's nervous or having a bad day, you know, cut him some slack. I don't know. Or, you know, this guy is just an idiot. He's scary. I just want to get him off my back. I don't know. But and the thing is, like, your driving teacher in Norway probably used to work in this Statens Vegvesen, you know, the Norwegian DMV. He probably used to work there and knows everybody. It's a small country, and especially Oslo, even though it's a capital, it's still a small city in many ways, and especially the different parts of Oslo. Like, I did my lessons in East Oslo at a tempo driving school, and it was in a place called Hellsfjord, you know, Hell's Fire. It was you know, they had like a track. They had both the driving school, like for motorcycle and car. So I did the car part first, and then I did the motorcycle second. And they're fun guys. You go there a little early, you hang out, you talk. That was more for motorcycle. With the car, it was more, I think, I remember I was practicing on a BMW. Kind of cool. So yeah, I took this driving test. And one of the keys of the driving test is you narrate what you're doing. So you tell them, okay, I'm backing up the car, looking both ways. There's no kids in the parking lot, all clear. And you just kind of verbalize everything you're thinking. And then you drive up to a sign and say, okay, there's a stop sign 10 meters ahead. I'm slowing down, or there's a light. I'm going to look both ways. You just tell them everything you're doing. And then you see the sign on the road, okay, this is a priority road. The cars on the right have to yield for me. You know, and just explain what you're doing. Read every sign to them out loud and tell them what you're thinking, what your next action is going to be. You know, tell them you're looking around, you know, aware of your surroundings. And then they understand what's going on in your head. I know it's a super easy hack. You know, I thought, and actually I think he was getting annoyed with me, because the thing is, he ended my exam early and said, yeah, you know what you're doing, you pass. And my exam was over. It's normally like a 30-40 minute exam. I was done in like 15-20 minutes, you know, and I think I just had to park one time. I think I just had to do one parking exercise, like a parallel park or something, because I was really, you know, I'm really, even though I lived in America and everything, you know how it is in America, right? Nobody's 10 centimeters. Either you're over the curve or you're like a mile from the curve. No one's like exactly 10 centimeters to the curve, you know. So, you know, it's yeah, I just remember that experience. Like, it's pretty precise in Norway. So You got to win over your driving teacher, because your driving teacher knows the proctor, the guy giving the exam, and you got to just over communicate. Now that'll put you above all the Norwegians, because Norwegians don't like to talk, you know, in general. Like they just kind of drive and do their thing, and the teacher doesn't know what's going on in their head. And I'm going to tell you, even, and especially as an American, you're going to Norway, they're very skeptical, because they know how easy it is for us to get a driver's license. You're 16, you know, you ride shotgun with your dad, you know, and or your mom, or your older brother or older sister or some friend, you know, and you just do a few laps around the parking lot at the driving place, you know, and it's done, you know. And you know, I mean, it's you know, as long as you don't kill anybody, and as long as you don't blow a stop sign, you're going to pass that test in America. But in Norway, it's a lot more precise. And now going on to motorcycle. So right after that, I followed up with motorcycle, and there I opted to take the full practical course, not the written course. I didn't do the book part. But, you know, the books with the motorcycle is no joke. They tell you everything about how the motorcycle works, coefficients of friction, and it's a pretty heavy written exam. A lot of people fail it. It's no joke in Norway. But I did just the practical, because I knew that even though I learned motorcycle in the U.S. and I drove a little bit in the U.S., and I had the safety course, the DMV, there was like a 1-week safety course I took, you know, how to stop the bike in the box, you know, speed up, slow down, you know, do the turning correctly, go for a road trip. I think the last day of that US thing was like a class road trip where you are like a biker gang, you're all wearing orange vests and you got teachers on the front and back, and you're riding these like 600cc bikes. But I opted to do that whole thing over again in Norway. And the thing that was really hard, it was this driving in the clutch zone, you know, this slow driving, you know, where you're between the neutral and the first gear and you're just revving the engine and letting the clutch in and out, finding that sweet spot with the clutch, you know, and you have to navigate these cones, like do a loop. And the key to that is not looking at where you're going to go in front of you, but looking at the next obstacle. So you're always sitting up straight. You know, the idea is to sit up straight and use your peripheral vision for what's next to you, and always looking ahead at your next turn, because your body will already start making that turn and making that maneuver, because you basically got to flip the bike. You know, you're turning one way and then you got to turn it the other way, and the only way you can do that is always being one step ahead. And then your body instinctually, like when you're looking at what the next thing is, will already start that turn. Because if you're just doing it in front of you, I don't know, I wish I had some video editing, I could show you what I mean. But if you're just looking at what's in front of you, you're always too late. You know, you always have to look ahead, and then you're already navigating, you know, to it using your peripheral vision. Anyway, that's hard everywhere you go, but in Norway they have an especially hard test. And I was told when I showed this test to some friends in America, like, that's like a police academy test in the US. You know, like cops would take this test in Norway for the slow driving, you know, like doing the maneuvers, like avoiding, you know, you have to swerve around some cones, you have to, you know, drive in an arc and then brake in the middle of the arc. And yeah, I forgot, it's like there's like 5 things you do before you go on the road, and I did all those. I had a little, you get 2 tries, so I got the second try, like my boot hit the on the swerving exercise, hit one cone, I remember. And then I did all the other ones. I did that slow driving one. That was one I was most afraid of, and that was the one I did best on. It stopped in the box. Then she takes you out on a road trip, and that's where I started again, narrating what I was doing. I was watching the signs, you know, telling, okay, this is I have right of way, and they're really looking at how you turn. They ride behind you, you know, the instructor, and she's really looking at your hips are, I mean, your legs are squeezing the gas tank, and that you're leaning into your turns. You're not just turning the wheel, but you're doing a proper lean with a counter steer, you know, to properly, you know, turn, and you're cutting those turns correctly. You know, like when you're doing the curvy roads, there's a technique for this. You know, like, you know, you want to come out into the center line. You know, you don't want to go right off the road. You know, when you come out of these turns, you know how to do these S's. So we did a lot of that in the hills of Oslo, and it's no joke. I mean, Norway is like, it is no joke. I mean, and then there's like road conditions. You know, it rains a lot there, and stuff like that. So I had to spot that. There's leaves on the road, you know, all these things that can, you know, make you lay down a bike. But the bike is easy. You're getting this 600cc BMW or 600cc Honda. I think it's like a BMW F bike. They're balanced really well. The Hondas are better. They have a better gearing at low gears, you know, for this balance exercise. Or, you know, when you're in traffic, you cannot put your feet down. You really need to hover the bike. You know, I mean, I guess if you're at a dead stop, you can put your feet down. But if you're like just moving along, you can't paddle your feet. You see this a lot with like in America, like these Harley Davidson guys are paddling the bike. A Norwegian motorcyclist can balance that bike almost at a standstill just using the engine and the revs. They teach you that in Norwegian motorcycle school. And so, yeah, I navigated the hills and all of this, and yeah, told them what I was doing. The main thing is you got to narrate. And again, so I was saying, okay, coming up on this turn, and you know, there's a roundabout, looking left, let that car pass, now I'm going to go in, you know. And she got tired of me, like the driving instructor, and she said after 20 minutes, let's go back, you know what you're doing, you got your license, don't worry about it, it's all good. And they print your license there on the spot. It costs a fortune. I think, I don't know, all this like motorcycle lesson stuff, I must have spent at least $5 grand on this. I mean, it costs a real fortune in Norway to do this. But when you finish like Norwegian driving school and Norwegian motorcycling school, you're like the best in the world. You know, I mean, granted, you might not get this experience. Like in America, most of the stuff that you just have to learn quickly, it's sink or swim. You go out on a freeway and there's people, you know, crazy drivers and all of this, and you know, it's I guess throw you in the deep end. But in Norway, they really prepare you. But I mean, I haven't heard of too many Norwegians, you know, getting in. Norway has like the lowest traffic accidents in the world per 100,000 people or something. But I haven't heard of Norwegians getting in car accidents in the U.S. So they seem to manage. But it is overkill. But it's something you got to do, because if you wait more than a year, you got to do that full-blown course. And I think it's in Norwegian too. I don't know if they have it in English. I mean, the textbooks could be in English, if I'm not mistaken. But the instructor will speak Norwegian, and they speak fast. And so it's just something you got to go through. And after I got my licenses, you know, I got like an old Nissan X-Trail car. And the crazy thing is, like, car insurance in Norway is like way more than in America, where it's more dangerous, or definitely more than here in Ukraine, where people drive like maniacs. I mean, I don't even think, you know, here a lot of people, they get a driver's license and they still don't know how to drive. You know, it's a different world here, you know, with driving. And it's like, but in car insurance is super cheap, and in Norway there's never accidents, and insurance is like really expensive there. I mean, those insurance companies like Jensida, and I don't know, there's a couple of them, they're probably just making a fortune. I had to look at their stocks, because nobody gets in accidents there. I've never seen a accident in Norway, and here I see them daily in Ukraine and America. It was like a weekly thing, you know, when I was living in Delaware, or someone's car gets jacked or something like that. But none of that happens in Norway. It's really, even in winter. Now, if you go through the full Norwegian driving course, they're going to teach you how to drive on the ice and everything, how to you know, they're going to tell you to lose control of your car, and then you have to recover it, you know, and get it to stop spinning and everything. They teach you all this stuff like if you were going to be like a Secret Service driver. I mean, it's like I said, it's just on another level. Now, when I did the 5 lessons, I was focused on roundabouts and just rules of the road and parking, you know, making sure I could do a good parallel park, you know, because I never was good in parallel parking, you know. To do it by the book. I mean, I can parallel park, but I can't do no 10 centimeters to the curve, you know, perfectly. So yeah, that's a motorcycle and car license in Norway. Like, yeah, just to communicate. That's all I can say is, like, when you're with the instructor or you're with the proctor on the exam, tell them what you're looking at, tell them about your surroundings, tell them about the signs you see, tell them about what your next move will be, you know, tell them your whole, you know, that way they understand your thought process, you know, that you're identifying, predicting, executing, I think, or deciding and executing, yeah, IPDE, right? Identify, predict, decide, and execute. American high school driving. You know, as long as you're identifying everything, telling them, kind of predicting, okay, that old lady doesn't see where she's going, I better stop precautiously because she doesn't look where she's going to walk in the street. I'm playing it safe. You know, make your decision, I'm going to do it, and then execute it, and you just keep talking through all that. You'll ace the exams. But you got to put time in. Like, you know, for motorcycle, I would actually like rent the car, and I was driving around the area where the school was, because that's also like the test center is nearby. The schools are always next to the test center, so when you're on the test, it's everything you've seen before. Everything the whole test course is all going to be something you've seen before. And, you know, just learning like where all the tricky signs are, you know, and learning where all the roundabouts are. And there's always like these like roads, like small roads that come into your road. And if they're on the right, they got priority, and you got to just, you know, it's easy to miss when you're in an exam. So it's good to just learn the lay of the land and just be in this habit of looking ahead, you know, looking down 1,000 yards, you know, what's ahead, instead of just at the front of your motorcycle or front of your car, but, you know, having a whole situational awareness. And yeah, so that's what I did. But anyway, you all take it easy. See you. Bye-bye.